What's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of the Metaphysical Hour, where we're going to be talking about metaphysics. I grew up Southern Baptist. You may have grown up Catholic, Jewish, many other religions out there, but not many people know about metaphysics or to be a metaphysician, such as myself. I am a metaphysician. I grew up Christian and then kind of transition after kind of coming to a realization of where the institutions currently are with being all beautiful theories but no practical application. Coming into metaphysics and being a metaphysician, that is your practical application. So it's the very things that you would put in motion to see results. And I think that's what a lot of religious institutions are missing right now. It's just practical application. You can preach all day every day, but if people walk out of there and don't have no use case for the information that been given, then that's just gonna go right down the drain with whatever they drunk while they was in service or before service. So that ain't gonna really make much of a difference. So we're gonna talk about what it is to be a metaphysician, and what is metaphysics. So first things first, let's talk about what is metaphysics today. Yeah, I mean, I think metaphysics has obviously, I don't think this, I know this, metaphysics predates quantum physics. Quantum physics is science's version of metaphysics because that is a way that they can at least explain in science, the scientific method. Honestly, the scientific method is just the metaphysical idea of high and low energies just kind of turned upside down from very confined, condensed energies to very open, free energies. So if you take a look at like the Kundalini or the chakras, and then you look at the scientific method, you'll see the coloration, but you'll notice that they kind of go in opposite directions. And that is something that is very interesting. But that could explain, why it may be very difficult for them to meet in some aspects because they're coming from very different angles, but both are necessary. So, to get into it, I want to talk about um, what we believe. And I have my script here. It's not necessarily a script; it's just so that I don't miss anything, and that you get a full understanding of the principles and things behind, what a metaphysician believes and understands. And this is my local chapter, so the approach that we take may not match the national or global consensus, but this is kind of where we are and how we feel about things. So um, the first thing is that we believe in infinite intelligence. We believe this infinite intelligence is the source of all creation, unconditional love, um, and power. This infinite intelligence is God. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of this infinite intelligence. Everyone and everything is a part of God's consciousness. Everyone and everything is connected to God. Everyone and everything is infinite, powerful, perfect, whole, complete, just as God is infinite, powerful, perfect, whole, and complete. We got more, but I'm gonna stop there just because imagine if you read that every day, like every morning you woke up, right? And this is what you said. Everyone and everything is a part of God's conscious, therefore everyone and everything is connected to God. And everyone and everything is infinite, powerful, perfect, whole, and complete. Just starting your day with that mantra, like you starting your day. I got a little got a little something sticking up there. You start your day in a very positive, mind state, a very positive affirmation because there is no separation. As glorious and beautiful as God is, then that means that we have the ability to match or mirror the exact essence of that as well. Moving on, we affirm that a correct understanding of such expressions and living in accordance there institute or there within constitutes true religion. So understanding that information that we just expressed and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. Today, listen. Closest thing we got to true religion is the clothing company. I mean that. Oh, let me carry on here. Religion realigns our thoughts with these truths. We use truth to create our perfect world, our heaven on earth. Truth, I mean, we should always lead with truth. I mean, that's the only way to reach some level of resolve. Otherwise, we'll just keep going in circles. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the golden rule: behave towards others as you would have them behave towards you. And that, my friend, is something that I think a lot of people are missing today, because people are kind of trash sometimes, man. They like, they treat people like nothing. But what if they knew that every person that they treated and stepped over and bullied and beat, like, had the opportunity to do the very same thing to them, but they didn't. That is a very reality that could be transpiring. But some of these people must understand that that creates karmic energy on the opposition of them. So one life does not that does not equal your spiritual journey, buddy. What you do in one life, you think that's it? Like there's no turnaround in the next life. This thing goes on infinitely. Remember, God is infinite. And what? There is no separation. Everyone is and everything is connected to God. So remember, so just because you got away with a little something when you were, it could be 10, 15, 20 years ago. You may think it's over and it's done, but it's not. Listen, if it don't catch you in this one, it'll catch you on the next one. So this is where it's key in with these type of principles, people can understand that there's a ripple effect. I mean, look at sound. You can use sound as a very clean example of this very principle. Sound goes out, but it continues on even if you can't hear it through your ears, because your ears can only pick up a certain vibration. So at some point, you're going to be missing what was, but it's still out in the ethers. It's still out there. So yeah, your actions could be the very same way. I'm not saying for certain, but hey, behind these principles, it very much looks like that. All right. Everyone and everything is a manifestation of God's unconditional love. So we treat ourselves, everyone, and everything with dignity, respect, reverence, and love, because everyone is you and you are everyone. So you may be thinking that you're, the cool guy on campus, right? And you like to crap on people, but you're crapping on yourself at the end of the day. Because you could be that person one day, and that could be you doing it to your own self. And you have no idea, because your limited capabilities of thinking and conscious abilities have locked you in a certain state of existence. So keep that in mind. We believe in personal responsibility, that we create our own happiness or unhappiness as we live in harmony or discord with the natural, physical, and spiritual laws. Again, we believe in personal responsibility, and that we create our own happiness or unhappiness as we live in harmony or discord with the natural, physical, and spiritual laws. Therefore, all that, blaming somebody else for your circumstance, all that, no, 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 no. Everything emanates from self. All right. And again, like I was saying, so you might have done something that you don't even remember, and it's coming back at you like, yeah, it's coming back. You thought it was done. You thought it was no. Listen, you create your own happiness or unhappiness. It is no one else's fault but your own. If you don't like a situation, you have the ability, you have two legs to walk out of a situation. If you don't, you can build, you can do so many things. You have the capability, but to just sit there and be upset and complain is to just belittle yourself in the reality in which you're existing. We create the world based on our consciousness. As our consciousness shifts to be in accordance with the truths lifted above, we realign with God in the bliss of union. That bliss of union, listen, I'm on a journey, and I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm just getting started, and I'm going to tell you it's very blissful. When you really let go of some of these social normities, man, which they ain't norm. I don't know, today's time, but when you really step back or step inward A lot of the things just fall away. It's not really a lot of the problems and things we face. They're all an illusion, man. The reality can be very different than what we're talking about conversationally, and that's just because people like gossip and a lot of different things. So we have to center ourselves so we can see truth, not these misconceptions and all that extra stuff. We affirm that the doorway to reformation is always open to any soul here or hereafter. Okay? Again, remember, everyone and everything is a manifestation of God's unconditional love. Therefore, that love is infinite. Therefore, no matter where one has placed themselves, again, place themselves, they can always come back. And that right there is what we call unconditional love, because people could do and act outlandishly, and still the love is there. So acknowledge that. That's unconditional love. I know that's a foreign concept to most people today. It's a very foreign concept for you to grasp. Unconditional love, because all you know is conditions. You've been conditioned to know nothing but conditions. Sad. Our perception can shift at any time. We can transform any situation by invoking the amazing grace of God. We can transform any situation or circumstance with altering our thoughts. That's it. You don't need to beat something. You don't need to do all this madness that they got you out here doing. The real problem is the way you thinking. And this is, again, why I personally find myself um, very attracted to the lifestyle of a metaphysician and the information of metaphysics. I know you probably wondering like what book or books people use that are metaphysicians. As you can see here, nothing more than your traditional Holy Bible. This is, I wouldn't say traditional because it's from ancient Eastern texts. I mean, this is George Lambsa's version. George Lambsa actually spoke Aramaic, or studied the Aramaic language, I should say. And he did that in the reason for doing such is to understand that culturally things shift over time. The individuals that wrote the Bible did not speak the language of the people that they were articulating, or didn't have no relationship necessarily. So when it comes to communication and expression through language, they're going to lack the understanding because they are not those people. They don't know the expressions. They don't know any of the things. They are just trying to illustrate something that is being passed down that they inherited, for lack of better words. So their truth, I mean, their perspective could be lacking. There could be misconceptions, misinterpretations. So George Lambsa, get you one of these, has put together an extensive Bible that focus on removing those misconceptions and misinterpretations. Bigger than anything, it is misinterpretations, because I mean, if you're not from the culture, around the culture, how do you expect to be able to translate the culture? Problematic, right? We see that today. Come on now, speak to me. We see it today, don't we see it today? Yeah, we see it today. So that's a little bit about my local chapter in metaphysics, and what we believe. Obviously we believe in the infinite intelligence. I'm not sure if any of you have read the Kabbalion, um, which I may be pronouncing it wrong. I've heard a couple different ones, or a couple different pronunciations, but that kind of starts off with the seven. Well, it doesn't start off. It focuses on the seven hermetic principles, and these, what I would say, would be metaphysics or a metaphysician's guides. The seven hermetic principles. Many people have heard of as above, so below, as within, so without, which I believe is the principle of correspondence. But there's the principle of gender, polarity, um, the principle of mind. The universe is mind, so your mind is living in a living mind. And the better your relationship is with that living mind, by, focusing your mind in a better direction, then the better experience. You are literally living in a mind. So your mind is encapsulated in another mind. So understand that it's all mental. So the goal is to reach that higher level of thinking, or what some people would say, if you are like me and grew up Southern Baptist, Christ consciousness. Um, and that's the misconception within the Christian Southern Baptists, is that Christ is going to return, from their perspective. And I understand the perspective. I grew up with it, but after getting into metaphysics and studying the books, I personally believe that Christ consciousness, because Jesus' last name was not Christ based off the ancient text or the text that we have, that I've personally written. Christ is a level of achievement of consciousness, not your last name. So so if that level of consciousness were to return, within many individuals, then that could be very altering for the terrain, the landscape of things, given that Jesus was kind of put on the cross according to King James Bible. But there's other books that say that Jesus lived his whole life, had kids, never died on the cross. And that ain't I'm not here to try to convince you to do nothing. I'm just here to bring up information so you can do some research, because this is probably some stuff you never even heard of before. Like, this is probably a whole lane you like, wow. But this is what I'm saying. Do your research, man. Take what somebody's saying and then do your research. Go follow up, see what you can find. The Book of Mary, all these books, there's many books that didn't make it in. The Book of Barnabas, the Gospels of Thomas, the Book of Enoch, the Council of, let me make sure I say this right. No, the Council of Nicaea, I believe that was in 325. I think this was another council of it's something with an L. I can't believe, but basically they decided on what canons or books would be in the Bible, because there were so many that they couldn't fit them all, and they also had to create books, or not create books, but add books that would create a narrative that would support their agenda at the time. So that there's no difference from that today, where people are just trying to utilize whatever to create their own little agenda and do their own little thing or whatever. But it's been happening for quite some time. So um yeah, that's a little background. But what I want to do now is kind of just talk about some things, because I mean, there's been people throughout history, modern history, that have kind of talked about this. One of the psychological individuals, or I'm pretty sure, because there was Sigmund Freud versus Carl Jung. And I say versus, but Carl Jung was I guess a protege of Sigmund Freud. But personally, I kind of float with Carl Jung, and as you can see on my screen here, oh, wrong side. This side, yeah. You can see this is kind of a breakout from Carl Jung's studies, kind of his manifesto of things, of how he saw the physical world, society, objects, people, etc., on the persona level, or persona, very surface, But I mean, look at society today. The physical world operates on the surface. It is not all of reality. The physical world is simply the surface of things. So, in order to go deeper within oneself, one has to make it past one's ego. And this is a very difficult thing, because the ego is up clearly by the image you can see here, is what holds up the persona. Everyone has an ego. If you act like you don't, then just cut it out, because it's not necessarily an ego as it's been portrayed in Western television and Western media. um, the ego can be very beneficial, it could be detrimental. It just depends on the conscious or the intention behind what's happening. Intention is very important. But as you can see here, as you go further down into the shadow, the cultural unconscious, the biological unconscious, the collective unconscious, and the anima and animus, which I believe are opposites of one another. Um, and then at the core of things, you have the self or God image. The crazy thing, though, this is what throw me off. Like the way that this image is depicted, everything is kind of obviously it looks like an eyeball. Like let's just be for real. But that speaks to more than anything is because I mean, imagine if your pupil's looking out, that at the center, that ego, but that ego is between your persona and God. That ego can get in the way. You can clearly see how your ego can get in between you and God. That ego, it could be destructive, but it also can be very uplifting as well. So keep that into consideration, man. But I just like this because psychology wise, Carl Jung to me personally was far greater than Sigmund Freud, but I don't know historically if Carl Jung really even got, you know, um, the love that Sigmund Freud got because he was a what? It ain't nothing but your libido. He just made the human being seem like nothing. It's just the sexual animal, and that's the compass of it. But when you see something as extensive as this, you be like, wow, man, there's depth to the human being because it's depth to everything, man. Some of these people out here talk so much and couldn't measure the depth of an ant. Pause. No pause, like, in the street way, but like, just listen to that. Some of these people talk so much and have so much to say, but yet they couldn't measure the depth of an ant. That's the reality of things. But see, whatever reality you've convinced yourself, and I get it. People, for comfort and, insecurities, people create and build walls so that they can feel, comforted. And I don't see it, but I think it's time that we start talking about more, we start talking about a more, and we get into the historical aspects, you'll get into the mores, for sure, for sure. But I just wanted to touch on Carl Jung and the projection of self. The God image or self can come permeating directly through. But like I said, that ego that has the potential to block that God or self image in the persona. So the persona could be lost, it could be totally ego. It could be totally ego and not, but this is what they mean. You have to push your ego aside. Literally, can't you see this? This is like as clear as an image is gonna get. You're gonna have to put your ego aside so that God or that self can come through who you truly are, not what somebody told you were, you know? Not what some TV show, not what some uncle, some aunt, some mom, some fathers wanted you to be. We all are different. And we could play the role for as long as we want, but at some point, the rooster's gonna come home. So as you can see, these are all archetypes. But it's kind of, the way that Carl was doing it was, the physical world on top and the psychic world on the bottom there. So I wanted everybody to take a look at that because I think that's just really important just because of it just lays out things in a very visual way so that you can mentalize it and you can really digest it. Now, also with Carl Jung, as a metaphysician, I really love the studying the ancient Egyptians because I feel like the ancient Egyptian society was one of the ones that really they were really on to something. And they with Ma'at, and the great mother, Ma'at, who is opposite of a pet, you know, and I can try to hold up. Let me let me slide over here so you can see. Concentrated, very very concentrated. At the lowest energies, things are very concentrated at a pep. But that would make sense because we're talking about reality, right? So imagine, as you can see on the far side, fear at the lowest density, the most condensed. So imagine when you think about people in your day to day life, like the people that are really fearful, afraid, they feel guilt, they feel shame, they don't really. do you ever see them, climbing a mountain, running a 500 Fortune 500 company, profiting, just money flowing to them, the life of life, the reality just flowing for them? No, usually they're confined, constricted, um, and that's because of the energy in which they're operating, man. You are your energy. There's nothing you can do to escape that. So it's like you must understand that the way you behave and your actions and your emotions create energy or give off energy that are is resonant. So, you become that, you are what you eat, for lack of better words, but it's more about you are how you behave, and you are the reality in which your energy exists. So as you can see with a pet, people, things are very fearful, guilt, apathy, grief, shame, in these very, very low dense areas, concentrated, very concentrated, in comparison to the expansion. As you go up in this, the expansion, as you get rid of your desire, anger, and pride, you build courage, and you start thinking with neutrality, and you have that willingness, you have that acceptance, and then with that acceptance comes great reason, but with that great reason then comes the joy and love and peace. See, so people that live their life with courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, they have a much more open lifestyle. They'll generally be traveling. The this it's almost as though like life opens up to them. But the question then becomes: is life opening up to them, or are they opening up to life? I personally believe, as a metaphysician, is that they're opening up to life. Life is consistently always surrounding us. It encompasses us. And me personally, I was thinking about something weird the other day, was when it comes to like a sonic boom, right? And how it leaves that cloud. I don't know how deep you are in the text, but the firmament, it talks about different firmaments and things like that. But if you see a jet break the sound barrier, you realize that the sound barrier, to me, is a density, is could be the firmament. We could be up here on the surface world thinking that things are just openly free, but we're actually in an essence like water, underwater, but different. It's not necessarily the density of water. It's just another density, a lighter density, because it sits on top of it. But that doesn't mean that it's the least density as you go up. So think about the sky. But we're here on the ground. So if you were using this imagery and information here, you would see that the earth plane, I would illustrate with green, or and yellow. But you can see how, on the earth plane, how people that aren't the nicest, for lack of better words, can still rise above those, um, and be at the highest level of this concentrated existence. Because if you're in three dimensions, you're a physical being. This is a physical world, which I would imagine, as you go down in from the expanded energy to the um, contracted energy, things are going to become physical. So I personally had a wild theory that they always say Satan fell from heaven, but as a metaphysician, we use a George Lambsa translation, and Satan is an Aramaic idiom for you deceiver, you, or left brain. So we all walk around with that. So that's no separation. That's not something from Hellenistic Europe. This whole whatever they like to create very fancy stories, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. But when you try to convince people to live their lives and spiritual lives behind it, is when it becomes a problem. So I think other people are out there. I'm personally here to just kind of say that a lot of those illustrations are, they could be real, but it's only for certain people at certain energies. And I would say they would be at the bottom. They would be deep, deep, deep down, in the concentrated, far, far away from the individuals that are resonating in love and acceptance. And that's probably where the jealousy comes from. Why We wonder how someone could be angry simply because they just don't get to bear the fruit that the people that are willing, that are full of willingness, neutrality, acceptance, reason, it would be like fruit just falls off the tree for them. It just seems to just naturally happen. But those that are operating at lower energies, and this doesn't happen because their reality just isn't open. They're only confined, so they feel like they have to fight and scratch for every little thing, and it's because they're making it that way. It's no one else doing it but them. But I do want to kind of move up the chart here and kind of get into Ma'at here. At the top, 42 laws of Ma'at. You have to look that up sometime because it's really important. Some people spend their whole life focused on 48 laws of power, and then they forget that they could have dropped six and just went to 42 laws of Ma'at, which would open up their entire reality and have them operating way up here instead of way down here. Because when we start talking about 48 laws of power, we're talking about, desire. You get into that pride, that anger. Not to say that these are, the lowest levels within the three-dimensional reality or existence. That's how some of these people can rise to really high positions within our existence, simply because pride ain't that far from courage, and anger ain't that far from pride. So it's like it's still resonating higher than people that are feeling shameful, grief, and apathy, guilt, and fear. So those that's who they're really trying to capitalize on. That's why they try to instill fear. They can't go way up here into the love and joy. So what they try to do is bat you down, try to fill you with shame, fill you with desire, fill you with grief, fill you with apathy, fill you with guilt and fear. So that's how they can be bigger than you or greater than you. When in reality, you can just jump right over all of that by just letting go of whatever they're trying to do or whatever they're trying to construct in your mind or in your reality. But we hurt ourselves. That's something that we get off track and we're not really paying attention, and absent-minded. We could really fall victim to a lot of these things, because I don't think a lot of people even consider this when looking at life. And honestly, I'll say I'm probably not doing the best job of explaining everything, but I'm at least giving you an introduction so you can take this stuff and kind of look up Ma'at. Ma'at is very important. Figure in Egypt. Obviously, when I say Egypt, I'm talking about the Roman or Greco-Roman term instead of saying Kemet, because Ma'at would have never known of an Egypt. Ma'at, any of her children, they wouldn't have known nothing about no like even the people who were worshiping Ma'at in Kemet, they would have never heard of an Egypt. So we must keep that in mind, that the conqueror sets the terms and the name and names things how they want to. So when you talk about Egypt, we must remember that Ma'at is from ancient, that was passed down. But to me, living with Ma'at and understanding, this is the path to expansion and freedom, true freedom, not free doom. Like they try to sell you over here, and I say over here because I'm in the United States. So over here, they try to sell you free doom, fill you with inner detainment, just have you fooled up, ain't nothing but entertainment, you locked in, uh with all the entertainers, they got entertainers everywhere on TV. That's all you see, but it is what it is. We'll get past it, we'll get through it, because as they always say, this too shall pass, that too shall pass. But I just wanted to take a moment to talk about metaphysics. So, I think this is at least a good start to, have some idea of some of the beliefs. Obviously, as a metaphysician, we don't believe in, a man in a white beard sitting on a throne handing out judgment. We believe in infinite intelligence, and that infinite intelligence can be utilized by any and everyone, but it is broken down by degrees. That infinite intelligence operates at very high and very low, and we have to find our way in that spectrum of energy, because we are all energy. It's all energy, and energy can never be destroyed, only transferred. So it's very important that we focus on our energy and understand where our energy is, whether we're operating in a very, contracted energy or in a very expanded energy. I think the key in life would be to be open to a very expanded energy so one can have a very expanded experience. I know we all know too many people who have had very limited contracted experiences, but we start looking at some of these things you're seeing over here on this side, from the enlightenment, peace, joy, love, reason. But, you see those people who are really, confined and don't seem like opportunities come to them. Just think about what kind of life they're living. See what energy are. Are they very fearful of things and how things are going to turn out? And they're always afraid and talking about how fearful they can be. Or they always talk about how guilty they are. They feel guilt, shame, grief. These are low level energies. These are very low energies, and we want to be operating at high frequency, high energy. And as a metaphysician, that is my goal, to operate at a high energy so that when I transition into whatever reality, that I come in at the high energy. Because that's one thing that they talk about in ancient texts, is that, you can't take much with you when you go on the other side, but you can take your spiritual knowledge or your spiritual progression. So imagine the people who spend their whole lives trying to gain material wealth and then die a poor spirit. You'd be like, bro, you were very rich in the contracted reality of things, the three-dimensional existence, the temporary three-dimensional, but you died a very poor soul, man. So what does that even look like? Well, I don't know. I can't even say, but I would prefer not to do that. So, this is why we focus on the 42 laws of Ma'at. We follow our principles. We read the scripture and the text because we want to be different. We want to focus on wisdom and not knowledge. So, one thing I will say, and I think it's a good place to take a look in your Bible if you have one. And like I said, if you're not from that, I listen, I think you can get the same information from the Quran. It's going to be in different chapters and different things, but I think it'll be the same type of information broken out in different ways. All of these books are coming from a collective of books with very similar meaning. Let me see here. Because this one right here, man, this is what I'm talking about, though. This is what separates um, those that preach, they don't know what they're talking about, versus those that they know what they're talking about. So this is Proverbs, and I'm coming straight out. I dropped my little John, but it's straight out the book. I ain't making this up, cuz. I said, cuz we family here. We family. We all family. You know that. Stop playing. You better make me a plate. Proverbs chapter 9. And this is the crazy part. It's on page. Hold up. Can you see that? Hold up. You can't even. I can't get it to you. But if I could, you would know what I'm talking about. Hold up. Bleep. Bam. Look at that. Look at that page number. Stop playing with me. All right. Chapter 9. Proverbs 9. Wisdom has built her house. She has set up in it 7 pillars. Start looking at these colors, y'all. Start looking at these colors. And listen. Wisdom has built her house. She has set up in it 7 pillars. Red, orange, yellow, green, indigo, blue, purple. Is it possible that this is the pillar? Are we looking at the pillars right now? Continuing on. She has slaughtered her beast. She has mangled her wine. She has also prepared her table. You hear that? She and her. This and I'm in the book. She has sent forth her servants to cry out upon the highest places and say, whoever is simple, let him come to me. As for him who lacks understanding, she said to him, come eat of my bread, drink of my wine, which I have mangled. Forsake folly and live and go the way of understanding. Correction. I'll stop there. Forsake folly and live and go in the way of understanding. And that's that's Proverbs 9, verse 1 through verse 6. But see, she get deep into it. When you start following her, listen, they know is him. They always behind him. That's all they know. But her and him, they're in the same book. But their perspective, you should pay close attention to. This is her perspective because she is wisdom. Remember, wisdom has built her house. Correction for a bad man brings disgrace. The wicked man is rebuked by his own blemish. Reprove not a bad man, lest he hate you. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love you. Give an opportunity to a wise man, he will yet be wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. The reverence of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of righteousness is understanding. Righteousness. You hear that? The knowledge of righteousness is understanding, and the reverence of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Listen, I think y'all need to listen. Her, the musician, ain't the only her, man. Come on. You see my odd at the top? You see a pet at the top? Energetically, we talking masculinity and femininity. But listen, this I ain't done with her. She needs more time. For by her, your days shall be multiplied, and the years of your life shall be increased. My son, if you are wise for yourself and your friends. But if you are evil-minded, you alone shall bear your evils. Whoo! Come on now. Sheesh. Oh, and what else she got to say? She said, stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he does not know that the mighty men perish with her, and that they, her guests, are in the depths of Sheol. Come on now. You got to do your research, man. I don't know if you know about Sheol. Come on. I mean, if you studied Jewish religion or Hebrew, Hebrew. Well, I don't even know how to. Yeah, cause that ain't my lane. I'm sure there's somebody who can to speak on Sheol, but I've come across some texts and seen it. I believe. I'm not even sure. Kind of like in the story of Gilgamesh going into the underworld and understanding that the underworld has rules and regulations that need to be followed. And listen, you heard her, the mighty men, the mightiest of mighty men, encapsulated in Sheol. Because it ain't about your strength or your brute force. It's about your wisdom. It's about your knowledge. So just because you can do this, have a moment of taking something from somebody, that's not wisdom. And if you knew better, you would do better, because you will suffer you will suffer your evils. You will bear your evils alone. So these are things to pay attention to. And like I said, I got that straight out. You can pull up your old, King James, your KGV. Pull up your KGV. It's going to be in there too. Maybe not the same page, because this is extensive. This is a collection of the New and Old Testament. So I don't think your book gonna combine both. So it's just faster for looking up and going through research. But trust me, you got a Proverbs 9, you got a verse 1 through 6, and you got the rest of them. So take a look, see what you think. But that is what it is. That's in the book. I'm not making that up. So I thought I'd correlate, seeing Ma'at, understanding, because most people, when they think of the Bible, they think of him. That's all they know. That's all they know. So that gives you a perspective to show you that this is a collection of books, and that within those collection of books, there was knowledge far beyond what some people at the time were handling. And it slipped in. I don't know if it was intentional or accidental, but when they start talking about her, she go way further than him. And that's just obvious. I mean, how many times have you ever seen a man give birth to a woman? Yep, that's what I thought. You was gonna sit there and be like, "Nah, man, that ain't never happened. You ain't. I mean, I ain't gonna say never because science people will do it any whatever. That's not naturally occurring. See, today we're in a war of natural versus artificial. So, they use artificial to combat the natural existence, which is in itself an idiocracy. I'm sorry. It's just ridiculous. Comparing Ma'at to some artificial thing that is not going to stand up to the testaments of time. Um, it's truly simple and kind of disgusting how some of these people do these things and behave in certain manner. But it's understanding that they're in such a contracted energy. They don't know the joys or loves of peace. You see how it's kind of like, imagine in school. Remember when we used to put the water, the oil, we put all these joints and, we could see the densities. Did you see them mixing? Do you think the lowest level was able to go up to the top? No. So they have to build their own version down here. They ain't going all the way up there to Ma'at. They don't know nothing about that expanded consciousness, that ultimate consciousness, that free consciousness. They got to build their own little things down here. That's all they got. This is it. So that's why they try to keep you feeling guilty, feeling grief and fear so that they can have some level of dominance. But in reality, they tiny, they micro. We macro. They minuscule. And the only way that they have any power is to belittle you but you are belittling yourself so that they could have power, which is crazy. Stop it. Stop belittling yourself. Stop it. It's not good for you or the people around you. Come on. You heard the text. You heard the text. It's not a question. So, yeah. That's how I feel about things. I don't know, man. Listen, everybody might not agree with what I'm saying there. But it is the real deal. It is the real deal. So, hey, man, this might not have been quite an hour, but I just wanted to spend some time and talk about metaphysics. So, we did that. You had an introduction. What does a metaphysician believe in? Ultimate infinite intelligence. We believe that infinite intelligence is the source of all creation, unconditional love, and power. Everyone and everything is connected. We believe in the golden rule: do unto others as done unto thyself. Because what if others was thyself? Know thyself is the truth. They out here telling you to, get your football team. You ain't nothing but entertain. This whole entertainment industry, you know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. It's far fetched, but people can't see nothing beyond it. That's all they know, cause they entertain. Ain't nothing they can do. They encapsulate it. Oh, they so encapsulated. Oh man, they don't even know what's happening. Listen, thank y'all for joining me. This was the first. Plenty more lectures to come where we gonna talk about different things. I said lecture, but it's kind of just like a chill talk and going and reviewing different things. But more stuff to come. So, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We did it. Yeah.